Hello everyone, this is Chara, and today I want to be going over the Crapid combos with its Torpedo, which basically involves anything besides throwing Torpedo like this. Now, throwing Torpedo like this and having it lock on and chase opponents is certainly useful, but it's not really that complicated, and I mostly want to talk about the combo you can do with it, which is rolling Torpedo into blaster shots. This is a really common combo, and in the latest patch, using it is becoming even more important, since it's against a lot of weapons like CDS and Bamboo, which have quick times to kill or mobility. So being able to pull the combo off successfully in a lot of situations is becoming more and more important. So I wanted to cover how it works, the different variations of it, what can be used to counter it, and how to use it in situations where it looks like you wouldn't be able to use it. So the first thing I want to go over is the basic combo. So, first of all, Torpedo has two different hitboxes. It has a 60 hitbox if you hit up close, and a 35 hitbox if you hit far away. The 35 hitbox is super forgiving and can hit from super far away. When you use Torpedo, you need to make sure that you either roll it or you bounce it off a wall. If you throw it directly at someone, even if you're aiming downward, it can lock onto them before hitting the ground, which will not give the combo you want, and if you throw it in front of them, is super easy to intercept. You can bounce it off a wall because after bouncing off a wall, Torpedo can't walk onto anything. Same thing after rolling off the ground if it were to fall off a wall or something. Keep that in mind, it'll be more important later. Now, there's two different combos that you will most often see. The first of which is just an indirect Torpedo and two indirects. And the second of which is an indirect Torpedo and a direct from the Rapid. Both of these can work, and you can pretty much poke for either one of them, and if you happen to get the direct, you get a nice bonus. The most common one you'll see is a roll Torpedo and an indirect, because if you hit both of those, the opponent's pretty much trapped and has very little movement options, so most of the time you'll be able to get the third shot in. This combo is useful because it's faster than doing 3 different rapid shots, and it gives the opponents less time to react and puts more paint over their feet. The downside being the extra ink tank that it takes. So you have to make sure you have good ink tank management and run a bit of Ink Saver sub, which is pretty standard right now. So you can use these combos to more poke people if you are starting to fight and they don't know where you are. So for example, if I'm peeking out here and I see a charger, I can roll Torp to start the fight and go with 2 indirects, or do the direct combo, either one, but it can be a quick way to poke out and shoot someone. If you poke out going purely for indirects, then they have enough time to move away after the second shot, so it's important to use the combo there. On top of that, it can also be really useful to help cut people off, since you can use it to cover different options of movement and guarantee a hit. So if you're playing against something like a CDS and they have 1 health left and they're rolling backwards, you can use it to cover 2 different escape options, so that way you have a higher chance of hitting them. These are all just general uses. Now the reward to getting the direct hit is if their opponents recover health slightly, which could happen pretty fast. It's a much more reliable kill. 35 plus 2 blaster shots is 105 damage. So if you have to swim for a little bit and they get the chance to recover even a little bit of health, the combo won't kill. The other thing it helps with is if your opponents have 1 main and 1 sub of bomb defense, then they will actually be able to live an indirect plus 2 indirects from the rapid shot. That's only if you hit with the outside of the Torpedo and both rapid shots. Currently, this isn't common and competitive whatsoever, though a few people have used it against me. So it's something that you could see. Just keep in mind against those kinds of players that you will need to be getting the middle hit of the Torpedo, or the closer hit. Another thing to keep in mind, though, is if you do roll Torpedo in an indirect, it's highly likely that your opponents will start taking damage in your ink, so sometimes it'll kill anyway, even if they have the necessary bomb defense, and at that point, the amount of bomb defense you need to stack to have it be reliable isn't really worth running. Now, some of the hard part to use this combo on are people on high ground, because if you don't have a way to reliably roll Torpedo at people, then it can be really difficult to use it, because if you throw it at all, it will lock onto them. There's generally 2 different options you can use in this situation. If there's any kind of ramp or slope, you can use that, or if there's a wall, you can bounce it off that. But even then, wall bouncing can be really tricky if they're up close. So you have to make sure you have enough distance to do a wall bounce, and even then it can be really tricky to actually land Torpedo. As you can see, this is a really hard spot. There you go, it's possible. So, I want to show off a few stages and places where you can use this combo. Now, there's a lot of different spots where you can roll Torpedo off a wall or off some floor to be able to hit convenient angles where normally it'd be hard to have a rolled Torpedo hit. And I'm not going to show off all of them because there's just a lot of different spots. So I'm going to show off a few of the different locations that do exist, and that way you guys know what to look for. So one of them is if someone's under a ledge. So let's say there's someone on this wall trying to climb up here, and you're over here, which is a pretty common rapid spot right now, and you want to shoot them under there quickly. So one thing you can do is roll Torpedo off the ledge and quickly shoot twice. If you roll off a slope or something, it'll generally have its momentum cut, and it's a pretty solid trajectory that you can follow. If you throw it further down, it can get stuck and travel slower, and if you throw it further up, it'll roll a bit further. Just to give some examples of Torpedo trajectory. Generally, for this spot, you want to throw it at the top of the ramp. Now, ramps actually sends Torpedo pretty far, and to give another example of that, let's say you're under here and you're trying to poke a charger. This is a weird spot, but say for the example that you're here. You can actually roll Torpedo off the ledge here, and it will bounce pretty significantly far. So, no other sub really bounces quite like this, but you can actually bounce Torpedo pretty high from sloped surfaces, so you can use it to poke unconventional places. Make sure you do it around the top of the slope and aren't looking too far down. As you can see, if you time it just a little bit improperly, it can be difficult to pull off. But if you get it just right, you should be good. Alright, I'm going to show off one more location with a wall. Now, the other thing I want to show off is bouncing Torpedo off a wall to reach some places, which can be useful in a few situations. So, let's say I'm above here on Gobi and there's someone by the purple balloon down there. You can actually, if you try to roll Torpedo down, it's a little bit of an uncomfortable angle. So something that can be easier is bouncing it off the glass. And by bouncing it off a wall here, it makes it a lot easier to poke near them, and you can get a lot of different angles. You can also try to throw it further if you want to drop, so it can be useful for hitting people at different angles. Another wall bounce spot could be if someone's on this spot right here, say they're right above, you can bounce it off the wall to get quick shots up here. These are just two different wall bounce spots, but it gives good examples of how you can hit people above. Most people, upon seeing chargers or anyone perched on this ledge, will throw Torpedo above, which can be useful sometimes, but if you're looking for a quick ambush kill, remember bouncing off a wall will give you the quick explosion and the guaranteed damage, which most often is going to be better. This is just a bit of a short guide on Torpedo, but I wanted to show people how this combo can be utilized in more situations since it's becoming increasingly more important. I hope you found this guide helpful, and thank you so much for watching.